Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Welcome to another episode of the Wisco Fanatic Show, where we cover the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, and Badgers basketball and football teams from an optimistic and realistic perspective.
Hello, welcome to another Wisco Fanatics Wednesday. It's a double part two. Jake did his part two of his Badgers football primer earlier this afternoon. Now I am running mine. So today I'm going to be talking about my takeaways from Luke Fickell's talking on Media Day, and then also giving my bold predictions, record predictions, and some buy or sell questions for the 2026 Badgers football season. If you didn't see Jake's, go check out Jake's part two. He did all of the same things. And then also, if you are a Packers fan, go check out last night. We did our first Packers episode. That is going to be episode number 1. And we will be live every Tuesday night through the rest of Packers season, whenever it may end. Jake was pretty confident that it's not going to be until early February, which would be fantastic. But we'll also be covering Badgers football on Wednesdays. And as always, we cover the Packers, the Bucks, the Brewers, and the Badgers basketball and football teams. And we're focusing on doing our content differently. So stay tuned with us, not just on the live shows, but also on the page. So with that, I'm going to jump into Luke Fickell's Media Day comments and things that I took away. And just listening to Luke Fickell talk a lot about the massive amount of changes over the last couple of months with the leadership at Wisconsin as a whole, with the new athletic director, the investment of the new practice facility, and already in the roster, the Badgers brought in 33 transfers. We talked about the additions last week. Luke Fickell also talked a lot about roster leadership, how the team feels different, and the influence of certain alums. We got to see Joe Thomas get involved a little bit with the Badgers this offseason. One guy that he brought up was Chris Orr. And then, like I said, with Joe Thomas, he's easily one of the top 5 guys that you could ask to endorse the vision if you're Luke Fickell. I think the only other guy that would hold that much weight would be J.J. Watt. Outside of those two guys, like, you'd have a hard time. Like, obviously there's lots of running backs that you could put into that category. But if you're talking Wisconsin football, the two biggest guys that I would want on my side as Luke Fickell in a make or break year is going to be Joe Thomas and J.J. Watt. And J.J. Watt's still doing his thing at the NFL level, albeit just on the media side. Luke Fickell also spoke very highly of the quarterback room. Obviously, I was very interested in, and Colton Joseph was my number 1 transfer target coming into this season, and he is going to be wearing red and white for the Badgers this fall. So I'm very excited about that. So I can very understandably see where Luke Fickell is coming from on liking the quarterback room with Colton Joseph, Deuce Adams, and Ryan Hopkins, an incoming freshman. I do think that Luke Fickell has a good approach on how to add people to the team, not just players. He was talking about how if the program leadership and coaches aren't aligned on their players, that means that they're probably not doing things the right way. So for people that want to say Luke Fickell is incompetent as a head coach, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just kind of a matter of putting everything all together, whether it be financial investment, transfers, recruits, and the coaching strategy and the staff themselves. Eric Mateos, the new offensive line coach, has had a lot of great things to say over the last couple of days, talking about the physicality of the team. That's something that Luke Fickell mentioned a lot during his media day interviews as well. Luke Fickell did also talk about how different the offensive line is going to look. with a couple of guys developing and then Kevin Haywood coming off of an injury. He is still dealing with an injury, so we'll have to be kind of keeping an eye on if Kevin Haywood is going to be part of the Badgers offensive line in a couple of weeks when the season gets started, and actually a little bit less than a month from now. So for me, looking at bold predictions, and we call them bold predictions, we don't call them lukewarm predictions, and me being extremely excited about Colton Joseph, my first bold prediction revolves around Colton Joseph, and my first bold prediction is that Colton Joseph finishes with 2,000 yards passing, would be a step back from last season, 1,000 yards rushing, but 25 total touchdowns. I am very all in on Colton Joseph. I very much like the way that Luke Fickell talked a lot about how he's going to have the offense with him and Jeff Grimes built around maximizing the skill of the quarterback. And that is Colton Joseph. We talked about it a lot last Wednesday. Colton Joseph was the best dual threat quarterback available in the transfer portal. The Badgers went and got him. They're not going to be like, okay, yep, you're now a pocket passer, or yep, now you are only running the ball. The Badgers went and got a dual threat quarterback to use him as a dual threat. And I think we saw over the last couple of seasons, even guys who weren't necessarily dual threats having the ability to kind of run the ball a little bit in Wisconsin's new offense, even with Phil Longo's guys, with Tanner Mordecai, Tyler Van Dyke, Braden Locke a little bit. And I think Carter Smith last year showed the ability to get out and run a little bit. So I'm very excited to see a guy who's wanting to do that and a guy who's shown he can do that, get out there and do that. My second one is the Badgers offensive line allows only 18 sacks all year. That would be a 33% reduction in sacks. They allowed 27 sacks in 2025. And I do think that Colton Joseph's mobility is going to help in that aspect, as well as, like I just mentioned, Coach Eric Mateos coming over from Arkansas, one of the best offensive lines in college football last year. So I think the Badgers offensive line is going to be significantly better than it was last year based on the new personnel.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
And the new coach. And my last bold prediction is that the Badgers defense allows just 3.1 yards per carry. That would put them in the top 12 in the country based on last year's stats. I think the front seven was going to be one of the best in the Big Ten. And they were 17th in college football last season at 3.4. So I think the Badgers front seven is going to be better than it was last season, and they're only going to allow 3.1 yards per carry, and that's what we want to see out of a Wisconsin defense. We want to see a team that you're almost more excited to watch the defense than you are to watch the offense because of how dominant the defense can be. Moving into my record predictions, from the head, I do have 8-4, the Badgers losing to Notre Dame, at Penn State, USC, and at Iowa. And then from the heart, I had the Badgers at 9-3, still losing to Notre Dame, at Penn State, and USC. They beat Iowa. I don't really want to put a ton of emphasis on last year after I just got done saying that about my bold predictions, comparing them to last year, but just giving a context for where some of the numbers lie. I'm not going to put a ton of stock into last year and how it affects this season. There is still plenty of, we have to wait and see what it's going to look like. And I totally understand that aspect of it. But with the amount of roster turnover that there is in college football, I don't have a ton of, well, they sucked last year, so they're going to suck this year. There's so much roster turnover when it comes to college football. I'm going to be putting less and less stock in the previous season. So with that, jumping into my buy or sell questions, I have 5 of them. Number 1 being the Wisconsin Badgers are closer to a resurgence than a reset. And I am buying this. Listening to, like I said, the alums talking about where the program's going, guys that just graduated talking about where the program's going. I do think it took a few years, maybe 2 years longer than we had hoped, but it seems like the team, the coaching staff, and the school / the program have a good idea of what they needed to fix, what they needed to get better at. I think hiring Eric Mateos is a step in that direction. Obviously, they brought in Jeff Grimes last year. I think they had a good handle on what they needed to fix. My second buy or sell question is that the Badgers will restate their offensive identity as a run-first, run-down-your-throat team. I'm buying that as well. Luke Fickell talks a lot about the team is going to be physical. They brought in some running backs, one of them being Abu Sama, who is on Bruce Feldman's freak list, one of those lists where it comes out every year, and Bruce Feldman looks at guys who have tremendous athletic ability. There's 101 of them, and the Badgers have 3, and Abu Sama was the only Badgers offensive player on the list. They had 2 guys on the defensive side. And then again, to keep harping on Colton Joseph, him being a dual threat quarterback, he's going to run the ball. Jake's talked about it for a long time, getting a dual threat quarterback, and I've started banging the drum with Jake over the last 2 years about getting a dual threat quarterback and seeing what they can do in a Badgers offense that wants to run the ball. So I expect the Badgers to run the ball like 60% of the time this year. Number 3, the Badgers win 9 games for the first time under Luke Fickell, and I am buying this, and I did say that my record prediction from the heart, so my more optimistic record prediction is that the Badgers can win 9 games, and the difference for me between 8 games won and 9 games won is that Iowa game. And I think the main thing that held the Badgers back the last couple of years against Iowa is quarterback play. And the Badgers addressed that in a big way, getting, in my opinion, the best guy on the market for that. Number 4, the Badgers get ranked at some point this season. I am going to softly buy this and buy it on sale, if you want to say it that way. I do think the Badgers will get ranked at some point this season, but I think they're only going to end up in like the low 20s. I'm not expecting the Badgers to get like top 15 or college playoff considerations, but I do think at some point, maybe around like week 5, week 6, they sneak in as like number 24 or 22, something like that, just while they go on a little run in the middle of the season, just something like that. I'm not expecting them to get into the top 20 or any college football playoff consideration, but in those 20s, I think somewhere in there. And lastly, my last buy or sell question is that Wisconsin finishes with a better record than Minnesota and Iowa, and I am going to sell this one. And I do think it's because Iowa, they have a pretty buttery, easy schedule ahead of them. So I do think Iowa has a pretty good shot. Outside of Michigan and Ohio State, I do think Iowa has a pretty good shot at winning 10 games this year. So those are my buy or sells, my record predictions, my bold predictions. Stay very closely tuned. We have a lot of really good shows coming up in the next 6 weeks. We have all of our shows planned out through the rest of September. So we have a lot of Brewers content coming. We're going to have more Badgers football content coming once that season starts. And then we're also going to be doing mixing in some Bucks basketball conversations as well in between with the Brewers and the Badgers. So stay tuned with us every Wednesday and stay very closely tuned to the page because we're posting a lot of stuff that's not showing up in our live shows, trying to mix up the content as well. People have been really appreciating the series recaps and the minor league updates, so we're going to try keeping focus on things like that. So thanks again for everybody who is listening and for people that give us suggestions on things to talk about, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday and next Tuesday.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.